throws for the end zone. Touchdown, Parker. Lift off by Xavier Howard. Tagovailoa trying to pick up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! That's hard work.
What's good, Finn Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another one. And tonight, I'm joined by the homie family of the show, Dante Collinelli. You can find his work at BlueChipScouting.com. You can also find him on Dolphins Talk, and he's going to have an announcement in the next couple of weeks. Some big news on the horizon. He just recently dropped a 2-round mock, right? It was 2 rounds, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, sir. Yep.
2-round mock on Blue Chip Scouting. You can go check that out. You can follow him on Twitter. His information is down below in the description. Dante, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great, man. Happy to be back on. Ready to talk some Fins. We got some interesting topics tonight, I think.
Yeah, man. I was getting all worked up before we went live here and talking about it. I just also want to say, thanks for coming, Dante, and Happy New Year. About to be Happy New Year to you and everyone out there, and everyone spending a couple hours, an hour and a bit with us on your New Year's Eve. We appreciate that. But let's hop into it before we get into the Tua stuff, because, guys, we got 4 clips that Dante's picked out that are from his Dolphins Talk article, from his All 22 breakdown. We're going to go over those a little bit more in depth. You guys saw 3 of them on the All 22 breakdown me and Ballgame did. One of them is a fit, so we'll go over that. But before we get to that, let's get into some draft stuff, brother. Let's start off with the mock you just dropped. Can you just explain the Dolphin picks to everyone?
Yeah, I think for me personally, my justification for most of the picks were I need to fix the offense. With the way that the Dolphins are winning games right now is nice, right? Defense, special teams, playing complementary football, whatever the heck that means. And, that's great. But what we've seen over time is that is not a sustainable way to win games. Historically speaking, defenses tend to regress heavily from year to year. So me going into this draft, right, I wanted to make sure I fix this offense quickly. So the first pick at the top, Penei Sewell, that's an easy one. I think he's the best offensive tackle prospect that we've seen in a couple of years. If you want to play him at guard, you can. I don't think you need to. I don't think you should, but you can if you want to. He'll still be very good at it. And then with that later pick, the Bama receivers came off the board. Obviously, I'd prefer to select Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, one of those type players. But I went with Kadarius Toney from the University of Florida, who's an easy separator in the slot, really dynamic player, forced the most missed tackles in college football this season. This is the type of player that the Dolphins need to compare, to kind of complement Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki. He's the missing piece, and you get him with Lynn Bowden. All of a sudden, you got some juice a little bit, and that's something that they've been missing. I believe the other pick was Creed Humphrey, the center from Oklahoma. And I really just think that he's a very sound, smart player. He's going to come in. He's younger than Ted Karras. You'll have to deal with some, learning curves, as you always do for rookie offensive linemen. But you get these, young players to meld together. I think Humphrey does a really good job of just kind of mitigating the weaknesses of the linemen around him, covering blitzes. He's very cerebral, very smart, a longtime starter for the Sooners. And then the last one, I caved the Dolphins Twitter. I drafted Najee Harris at the bottom of the second round. All right.
Pyro, where are you at? One of my mods, Pyromancer. He's like, that's the must draft player. So.
Yeah. So I Najee fell, and I didn't really plan it that way. It just kind of worked out. Like the running back market this year just isn't robust. Like there's just not a lot of teams in the running back market. It's like the Dolphins, Tampa Bay, and I don't know, maybe the Jets. There's just not a lot of teams in the running back market. So Najee fell. It worked out. Everyone's happy, I think.
Yeah. Can I ask you something just before we get back to the draft stuff? Because I got more inquiries about that. I just want to ask a quick free agency question.
Shoot.
A B question. A, do you think they would spend a little bit on a running back, considering, the cap space that might free up with a guy like Brady leaving? And B, the one that I think, if you could get him for the right price, not overpay, Aaron Jones in this offense. I mean, I like, the guy catches go routes from Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like, he's very underrated. And I don't know, it's a pretty deep free agency class for running backs, like it is for wide receivers to an extent, in terms of guys that are going to demand that bread, that cake. So, I mean, do you see them even dipping into that? Before I get back, I'm going to ask you questions about your mock draft there.
I think it's possible. One of the things that I always struggled with, right, was like the Le'Veon Bell thing, in that, we almost signed Le'Veon Bell. So that tells me that this front office is willing to pay, really good running backs for that production. So, yeah, I think we could be in the market. I would advise against it personally. I've been on this show before and I've given my soapbox argument that running backs don't matter. But, I think, again, a player like Aaron Jones would be awesome for this team, right? Like, it's not something that you complain about. I just think that there are better ways you could do that, right? Like, we could sign like Gus Edwards, pair him with Salvin Ahmed and Myles Gaskin and a drafted running back. And all of a sudden you've got 4 backs on low-level contracts that are somewhat productive. Plus I've drafted 2 offensive linemen. So that means my run blocking should improve. So that means my running back should improve. So you kind of kill 2 birds with one stone there. But yeah, I would not be surprised if the Dolphins go after some free agent running backs, to answer your question, just because, again, like, they showed that they were interested in a player like Le'Veon Bell. I mean, that tells me that they're willing to invest in that position. So we'll see.
And they were willing to go 2 years with them, not just one.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I just think if the guy fits what they want to do, the scheme, whatever the case may be, they're going to go ahead and do it. All right, so your tier draft picks. So Penei Sewell, however. Okay, honestly, been in love with this kid since his freshman year. I mean, the guy took his first snap at Oregon at the age of 17. He's going to be 20 by the time the draft rolls around. He's 19 right now. Okay, everyone here at Inside the NFL, all my subscribers, they know how much I've loved this kid since I started this channel. A lot of them followed me when I was on the other platform, and I was talking about Sewell like back during the last draft process. Okay, so can you tell everyone what you see in this kid and what you would do if for some reason Douglas goes off the board and takes him instead of a quarterback at 3?
Well, I think that I would trade back. And I think that is something that the Dolphins, Twitterverse should get comfortable with. Because if you're Miami, you're in a really, really unique situation where you have 2 years now back-to-back top 5 picks. If you're in a situation where you're sitting in the top 5 and, let's say Sewell's off the board, okay, at 2 to the Jets, that means one of the quarterbacks who wasn't supposed to be there just fell. So I would have to imagine you're about to get phone calls from the Bears, the Colts, the 49ers, the Falcons, maybe, they might be right there, the Lions, the Vikings, depending what happens in week 17 where those teams fall. You're going to be getting a lot of phone calls. So if Sewell's off the board at your pick, you have to pick up the phone and be willing to deal. You might be able to pile that into extra picks this year, extra picks next year, probably at least 1 first rounder. Depending on where the team's coming from, you might be able to get a first rounder this year and next year. So again, I think Dolphins fans should get comfortable with that. There's nothing wrong with trading back if your guy isn't there. This team is in a really, really unique situation where, they're a fringe or a playoff team already, and they're going to have an opportunity to pick a lot of players at the top of this draft. I did a 2-round mock draft today. I picked for the Dolphins 4 times. That's really, really important, especially for a team that's young and 10-5, maybe 11-5 this week. So I would get comfortable trading back if Sewell's on the board. There isn't another player there that I would pick at 3. I would not select Micah Parsons at number 3 overall. I would not draft a wide receiver at number 3 overall either. I can trade back to 7 with Atlanta, pick up an extra first-round pick next year, and probably still get Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. That there's no reason to make that pick there. So if Penei Sewell's off the board, again, I would think about, and even if Sewell's on the board, there's a chance you can move back and the quarterback teams just stack, right? Like you can move back to 5 and the quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4 off the board and you still get Sewell at 5 plus whatever you get. So I would get comfortable with trade back scenarios if I was Dolphins fans. That's what I would do if Sewell's not on the board. And I think it's a good way to go, even if he is.
Because right now as it sits, Atlanta's at 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So if that stays, I mean, I've told basically everyone this: if Sewell's gone, and now I got to deal with, I have the Justin Fields pick. Let's say he balls out a little bit against let's say he balls out in the playoffs, or let's say he shows enough that he cements himself as QB2. All right. I mean, at the end of the day, I got the Fields or Wilson pick, whoever people's boards have him to QB2, right? My whole thing is, especially if it's Fields, if he's the consensus and Atlanta's sitting behind me, I'm trying to sell teams on, hey, Ryan is the successor. This kid's from Georgia. I mean, it makes too much sense. Come on, move up, pay a premium. Because, I mean, here's the thing. Because I've heard people even saying, well, even if Sewell's there, trade back. My thing is, I think Sewell's a better prospect than Laramie Tunsil. And if I got 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Laramie Tunsil, you know what I want for? I think he's the best player in the draft, not a quarter. I think he's the best player in the draft, including the quarterbacks. I think because of situationally, Trevor Lawrence is going to have some lumps in Jacksonville. Okay, that's just facts, and I've never seen them produce or work. I mean, was the development with Blake Bortles very well? So I haven't seen them get an elite player of this caliber, and B, help that said player reach its ceiling. I don't know if they can do that yet. All right. So in their young history, right? I mean, who's their most acclaimed quarterback, accolade quarterback, Mark Brunell, right? So, I mean, it's not big competition, but I'm just saying I haven't seen them, you know what I mean, really develop and they probably will, because I think he's super, super talented. But I'm just sitting here and saying, I think Panay to me is, he comes closest to me. I don't think any prospect can't miss, but I think he's as close as it comes in this draft to can't miss.
I agree. I really like him. I think the only part that gives me hesitation and that, there are a lot of people that I talk to that, the NFL is not as high as the media is on Penei Sewell. That just seems to be something that I'm constantly being told, in that the NFL just does not view him as well as we do. They do not think that he's a can't miss tackle prospect. That's what I'm told. Now, I don't know if that's smoke screens, passing that down to other reporters, but that's what I'm consistently told. So again, I agree with you, right? I would draft, if I'm sitting there at number 3, I'd run that card to the table. They'd give me a speeding ticket by the time I get there. But, you have to understand though, that I don't know if the NFL will view him that way. And the Dolphins really is really interesting. And we've talked about this before, and I talked about this on Twitter last week, in that, the Dolphins did select 2 players that they view as tackles very high in the last draft. So, we have to sit here and think about, okay, are the Dolphins going to self-evaluate? What if they self-evaluate and they say, you know what, we don't need a tackle. We're not even going to consider Penei Sewell. Look, I disagree, and I disagree. We've had conversations about this, but the Dolphins have to do that self-evaluation. That's a huge roadblock in all of this, right? Because we can all sit here and go, Robert Hunt's a guard. We can all sit here and go, Austin Jackson, not great. You know what I mean? But the Dolphins might not do that.
No, you know what I'm laughing at? You know what I'm laughing at, Dante? It's not you, because you're right. It's if they thought Austin Jackson was worth the 18th pick, what do they think Penei Sewell's worth, brother? That's what I'm sitting here laughing at.
Fair.
Okay,
that's very fair.
And I'm just sitting here. I'm being honest, brother. But I want you to answer a question, sticking with draft for a sec before we keep moving on to your other picks, because I love your second pick. I'm hoping he slips to the second and we can steal him. And then I saw your mock today and my heart dropped, because I think yours was the first legit mock I've read where he's in the back end of the first. And my heart dropped. I'm like, because you started a trend with Zachy boy, and now you're right. So anyways, because I do think he's worth, I think him and Terrace Marshall are going to be first round steals, man. Terrace Marshall, a man that moves the way he does for that size.
Yeah, he might run a mid 4.4, and I'm going to freak out.
And I'm on record. And I'm on record at saying to my people, don't be surprised if he has a better career than Jamar Chase.
Oh wow! Okay,
because of the NFL tools. Because of the NFL tools, and if he's farther back, he's probably going to a better team than Jamar Chase. Just saying, don't be surprised. That's all. But anyways, I'm really low on Jamar Chase. It's disgusting sometimes, isn't it? Hey, I'll admit it. But okay, so let's go to your Kadarius Toney pick for a sec here. Actually, hold on. before we go there, I got to sit back to this. Is
right.
Robert Hunt a tackle or a guard?
Oh,
And
I feel
why
like
is he? I have to, bro.
Every time I come on,
bro,
look,
I have to, because he has
be...
played better the past 4 or 5 weeks. He's been better.
I agree. I think Robert Hunt has actually been the best rookie on the offensive line the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on how far back you go. Because like Austin Jackson's been, just straight up bad since he's come back from injury.
Kinley hasn't been the same since that foot injury.
Kinley hasn't been the same either. So I don't know if it's hurt. I don't know if it's the rookie wall. I don't know if they're just actually regressing to the mean, what that ends up being. But yeah, Hunt's a guard because he cannot bend at the hips. I've given this example before when we've been on this. You have to have a certain amount of flexibility in your hip flexor muscle where you have to condense your frame and be able to sit back on your heels and be able to block guys who are trying to bend under a table. And when you're too upright, when you're too stationary, you don't have that sit down ability, which he does not, nor does he have the foot speed, but we won't talk about that. We'll stick with the hips because that's easier to envision. Guys are able to run around the table and corner on him. We saw that with Marcus Golden. We saw that with Bradley Chubb. We saw it with Malik Reed. I think Max Crosby even got him last week. It did end up being a sack because Fitzy got the ball out, but that's just off the top of my head. That might be totally made up. But I swear I remember it. But it's something that you see on tape, and it's something that you saw at Louisiana Lafayette. There's a reason that every reputable draft analyst ranked him as a guard. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to call me reputable or not, I really don't care. Like, all of the big guys ranked him as a guard, right? Like, it's not just me. So, again, like, there's a reason for that. With that said, he seems to be playing like a average, I'm going to go with tackle.
Competent.
Yes, competent. That's a good word. I like that word. Let's go with competent. So that's nice. He's definitely outplaying Austin Jackson, which is not great. But yeah, he's a guard. I think if you get Sewell, you either put him at right tackle or you put Austin Jackson at right tackle. You kick Hunt inside and you get rid of Karras, Flowers, Jesse Davis, just like figure it out. Put the best 5 guys on the field, please. That's all I ask for. These guys can play different positions. They're athletes. They're young. You can teach them. Hunt's a guard. That's my soapbox on that. I
love it. Hey, I gotta remind the people because I always get people come in. They say I ride the kid, and I'm just like, I'm just telling you what it is. Anyways, and then when you come in here, I just say, hey, any support helps on this matter. Okay, so the next person you picked was a wide receiver, Kadarius Toney. I want to get into what you think about him specifically because I'm a Gators fan. But before we get into that, I want to hear about who you think, because I personally think Devontae Smith is going to be the first receiver off the board. I've been saying this for weeks. I think if Jalen Waddle was healthy, I think it would be between those two. I think Jamar Chase not playing this year is going to be detrimental just to that fact. So he could still go 3, but I just think, you know what I mean? He could still go 2. Anyways, who do you think is going to be the first receiver off the board? And then give us your thoughts on Kadarius Toney. And I know you told people about how he could fit that slot role, but give us what did you fall in love with when you started watching the tape of him?
Yeah, picking the first receiver off the board is extremely difficult, not only in that this is a tremendous wide receiver class, but it's so dependent on who that team ends up being. If it's a team like Cincinnati, I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't draft Jamar Chase to pair with Joe Burrow, given and even the style of offense that they run. That's a good pick for them. If it's the Dolphins in a trade back, it would shock me if the pick wasn't Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see, because last year we saw Henry Ruggs go to LA or Las Vegas. Because that was a good fit for them, which is probably why you called it, right? Because you're smart and you watch and you see that they need that vertical threat. And again, like, that's why it makes things so difficult. And one of the reasons that I went after Toney for the Dolphins, I wrote a big piece on him up on Blue Chip Scouting about 2 weeks ago. You can go check that out if you want. There's about 6 or 7 clips in there, me breaking down his film, just kind of talking about what he does well and whatnot. The reason that I gravitate towards him at the back end of that first round, and I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a first rounder. I'm just going to be honest. I think that if a player, he to me is Jerry Jeudy light. He is very, very similar in the way that he moves, in the way that he wins. I don't think he's as quick. I don't think he's as fast. I don't think he's as dynamic, but he's damn close. And, we saw Jerry Jeudy go pretty high. I'm pretty confident that Toney's going to go at the back end of round 1. So what I fell in love with, honestly, is just he can separate at will. You can scheme him open space if you want, but you do not have to. He is very, very quick and abrupt in tight spaces. That's one of the things I always like looking for with route runners. Can they break off their momentum and redirect in another direction quickly without losing too much speed and come out of that break and separate from corners? That is something that the Dolphins do not have right now. As good as Devontae Parker is, that is not his game, and it will never be his game. So you have to find that player. And for me, Tony's that player. He is dynamic with the ball in his hands as well. He'll be able to create yak. That's a big thing that the Dolphins do not have this year. We're one of the worst yak teams in football. We need that. He forced the most missed tackles in college football. And I think one of the things that I saw him develop first of all, became a way better route runner in 2020. That was a huge thing for me because I watched Tony over the summer and I said, all right, he's a manufactured touch guy, probably a day 3 gadget player, McCole Hardman-esque for the Chiefs, right? But this year, he really turned into a route runner, and you see him run whip routes and verts and these different things. So that was really nice. And then you see the development of a deep ball tracker, somebody who can run and get underneath of that deep ball and make plays down the field and be a consistent threat to stretch the defense. The Dolphins don't have that right now. And you watch that when you watch the All-22, you see defenses, they're not worried about things getting behind them because there's no one to be worried about.
Yeah.
I think we can argue about the lack of play calling in some games. We'll talk about the Raiders game, but again, it doesn't matter. You can scheme, you can send those guys down the field. If they're not open, they're not open. So for me, that was a big thing for Tony and why I targeted him for the Dolphins. I think that he pretty much brings everything to the table that I think the wide receiver room is missing right now. And again, I think he'll be available at the back end of that first round. But he's going to be a riser. If he goes to the combine and he runs low 4.4s, I don't know if he's going to be there at the back end of the first round. So again, really like Tony, but there's a lot of good receivers in this class. This is not, boom or bust. You have to get Tony. You have to get the Alabama guys. There is a ton of depth. I'm looking at my board right now. I've got about 45 receivers I need to watch by April, and a lot of them are going to end up with, top 100 grades. So this is a good class. This is a good year to have a receiver need in general. I just think Tony does everything that I need him to do, and he right now should be available at the back end of that first round.
What do you see on tape with Devontae Smith in terms of 40?
Low 4.5s, like 4.51, 4.52. My thing is if he runs under 4.55, I'm good. I'm not even gonna worry about it. I think he's so good at everything else that as long as he checks that box for me, I'm not gonna be worried about it. I'll drop this here. I've not dropped this on Twitter yet. I've started writing final scouting reports. I have dropped that on Twitter, but Devontae Smith is going to get the highest film grade for me in this receiver class. He's going to be my wide receiver 1 unless he bombs the combine in a bubble, not for the Dolphins. That's just generally speaking. I think he does everything so well that as long as he runs fast enough, I have a hard time believing he's not going to be the best receiver in this class. I just think that he is absolutely spectacular. He'd be a home run pick for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I told people I see low 4.45, I see just beneath 4.5, basically.
That's fine
between
for me.
there. In between I'll there. Yeah, he's such a good separator, man. And I know you were concerned when you were here last time about his body size because you said that frame doesn't normally work out at the NFL level. As you've taken in more and you're writing your final scouting report, what were your final thoughts with the frame?
I think that you become alleviated of those concerns when you watch him go up and bang out Derek Stingley Jr. at the catch point and make a one-handed catch in the corner of the end zone against LSU. He just does so many things where it's okay, the frame is not a problem here. Look, and I'll acknowledge, me pegging him as my wide receiver 1, I'm taking a huge risk. It would be much easier for me to just write in Jamar Chase and call it a day. But I'm really confident that the style that the NFL is currently adapting really does great things for Devontae Smith, the player. If this was 5, maybe 6 years ago, probably might not even get drafted at that weight at receiver. But we are at a new NFL right now where separation, speed, and the ability to run routes is by far the most important thing that a receiver can have. And he has all 3 of those things in spades. So yeah, the frame is worrisome. He will be an outlier. If he's successful he will be a very, very big outlier in the grand scheme of NFL.
Do you think he puts on weight? Do you think he puts on like another 10 pounds?
He's going to have to, I'm assuming. And again, that also comes with a caveat of, okay, if he's going to put on that weight, does he lose some of his dynamic ability? I don't think he will, because he's not, like, even if he puts on 10 pounds, he's still not heavy. You know what I mean? Like, even if he puts on 10 pounds, he's still like 180. Like, it's not heavy. So I don't think he's going to lose the speed. And again, like, my big thing too is, like, if he's not good at the catch point and he's getting bodied at the catch point, don't ask him to make catch point passes. You don't have to throw him a jump ball. You don't have to throw it back shoulder. You don't have to do those things. You know what I mean? The Chiefs don't throw Tyreek Hill jump balls because he runs by everybody and he separates. So, there's caveats there. It's still a concern. I'm going to flag it as a red flag. That's my job. I'm going to do it. But the more you watch his film, the more comfortable I got with him and his ability to handle physicality, both post and pre-catch. So I really like Devontae Smith, man. I think he's awesome. I think he's one of the better receiver prospects that we've seen, coming out of Alabama. He's not going to rank above Jerry Jeudy for me, but he will rank above Henry Ruggs, I believe. So,
does he win the Heisman?
He should. I don't think he does, but he should. I really have a bad feeling they're going to give it to Kyle Trask, which
not after that last performance, my friend.
I don't know if it counts. I'm pretty sure they already voted. So we'll see. But he should win the Heisman. I think he's been the best player in college football this year, hands down.
Yeah. He won AP Player of the Year, so there's hope. Okay, so your next pick was Creed Humphrey. Super high on him. I think next to Sewell, he's the best lineman in this draft, arguably. I like Darrisaw, I like Slater. There's some other guys here I like. You know how much I like Jackson Carman. So there's some guys I like out here. And obviously, I don't even got to say the name of the man from Washington State who I absolutely love. Yes, but okay, so Creed Humphrey, can you not only talk about Creed Humphrey and how we would improve this line as basically the anchor, but could you talk about, because you break down the All-22 really well, you watch it front to back. Can you also talk about Karras's play? I can assume it's disappointed you this year, and I can assume that that's why you were willing to invest capital. So can you just talk about Karras's play from what you've seen? And also, when you talk about Creed, because I know you've watched a bunch of All-22, the thing I've noticed is he's such a great communicator on that offensive line. And just talk about what his athleticism will do and how it will make a job for, Hunt if he's kicked inside, or Kinley next to him. It'll make their job easier. Just talk about that a little bit if you can, buddy.
Yeah, I think on Karras's front, I mean, he's exactly what I expected him to be. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason that his contract is the numbers that it is. It's a 1-year deal for not a lot of money. It's because he's, a very average player at best. So that for me was kind of, he's played exactly how I expect. He doesn't get a lot of movement in the run game. He's not very athletic. Once in a while, he makes a decent pull block and I clap, and that's just kind of the end of the day. He is what he is. And the reason I'm willing to invest capital into Creed Humphrey is just because, again, like I think Humphrey honestly probably had better film last year. I think he should have left last year. I think his film this year isn't as good as it was last year, but you have to understand that this is a player who's now, 3 years of starting experience at a really good Oklahoma team with a really good running game and a really, really sound pass blocking. He does a lot of really, really nice stuff at the line, pointing out blitzers, getting protection sets, sliding to pick up blitzers, guys coming from the second level that don't show blitz early. He's very, very cerebral. I don't think he's an elite athlete. I don't think he's an elite people mover, but he's very good at those things. He knows how to use leverage. He knows how to extend his length. He's a pure center. You cannot play him at guard. His arms aren't long enough. I'm sorry. But he knows how to use the length that he does have to create movement and be a good directional blocker. We try to do a lot of split zone stuff here. He's going to be great at that. That's right up his alley. That's right where I want him. I don't want him lined up and just pushing dudes. That's not what we're trying to do here. He's smart. He uses angles. He takes advantage of his own blocking scheme. He does a lot of those really good things that I think fit in well here. And when you get a player who's that cerebral, right? Like think of, Jason Kelce, right, for the Eagles. If you're a big NFL guy, right? Like how much work he does for that offensive line. Now, Kelce is one of the freakiest athletes in the NFL that nobody talks about. If you want a good time, go look up his combine numbers right now, and you will see some things from an offensive lineman that you did not expect. But Creed Humphrey's not that athletic, but he's cerebral like Kelsey is, where he can direct the line and make the right decisions. And, Ted Karras is okay. I don't think he's horrible. He is what he is. There's a reason his contract is 1 year. And, he is not the future at this position. If you're in an opportunity in Miami right now to shore up this offensive line that helps you pass block for your franchise quarterback and it helps you open up running lanes for your running backs. It's a double-edged sword. It kills two birds with one stone, and I'm big on that. So Humphrey for me was a no-brainer pick. I think his film, this year, a little bit of a tough year, but I still think he's really good. He's really technically sound. He's definitely better than Ted Karras, and that's really all I'm looking for at this point.
And then your next pick was obviously not your next pick. Sorry, was Najee Harris. I want to get your thoughts on. I know you said you succumbed to draft Twitter a little bit. Dolphins Twitter a little bit. Who are some other guys you're really high on that you think fit what they want to do? That not only could be found on day 2, but maybe day 3 guys you like
for running back.
Yeah.
I think that it depends on which way they want to go. I think somebody like Michael Carter from North Carolina, I think is really, really interesting. He's an elusive pass catching back. He did a lot of really, really good things. I don't know where he ends up going. Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo is another name that I've been high on for a couple of years now. I saw him 2 years ago when they played Temple up in Buffalo. He ran for like 150 against them. He has some of the, he has pretty much all of Buffalo's rushing records. And, he ran for like 8 touchdowns this year. He's very, very interesting back, not very fast, but he's very stout, very powerful, good vision, contact balance. He's a keep the offense on schedule type guy. So those are 2 names at the back end of the rounds that I would highlight right now. The running back class, man, is really fluid, and it's really odd. I always try to scout running backs last because they make my brain hurt. But there's some good names this year. I think that, again, I think the Dolphins have already showed. And what's ironic about Dolphins fans and why they want a running back so high to me is so odd, because they've shown that they can produce 100-yard rushing games out of Salvin Ahmed and Myles Gaskin with a bad offensive line. Mm-hmm. That is literally the epitome of what running backs don't matter is. That is the best argument I can make for running backs don't matter is the Dolphins right now. And I'm not saying our running game is good, but we're able to manufacture a running game if we just block half competently. We didn't run over the Raiders last week. We didn't run over the Patriots. We just sealed off a couple outside lanes and let Ahmed run outside. Yeah. Again, but I get it. I get wanting to have that dynamic back. So again, I'm not against the pick. I made it myself. I like the pick. I'm happy about Najee Harris. I like him. Good football player. But again, the Dolphins right now are currently literally the epitome of the argument that running backs don't matter. So when I say things like that, look at your own team in the mirror and you'll know, because that's what it is. But there are good options on day 3. Najee's a great player. The Dolphins need to come up with some type of running game that's more consistent than the one that they have right now. We'll see what they do.
Yeah. All right, buddy, let's start getting into it here. So let's start off with the news that broke today, that Ryan Fitzpatrick, he tested positive for COVID-19. He's out for this Sunday's game against the Bills. That came out at about 1:18. And then it was also reported by Tom Pelissero on NFL Network that there must not be no close contact tracing going on or worries, because Tua was out there practicing. They would have shut everything down. He wouldn't have been out there, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously we won't know officially till I think it is tomorrow, right? But it's pretty much almost a certainty that we're good to go. And a lot of people were wondering why. I believe it was either yesterday or the day before, Jake Ruddick, I think it was yesterday, right? Jake Ruddick came in for his tryout. People were wondering why, and now we know why. And the Miami Dolphins announced they've signed Jake Ruddick. They placed Ryan Fitzpatrick on the reserve COVID list. They placed Landon Roberts on injured reserve, and they activated Kirk Merritt as a COVID-19 replacement, which is ironic because he was on the COVID-19 not too long ago himself. Okay, so Dante, you look at this. It is officially, if it wasn't before, it is now Tua time. because I know we get to a point where we got to bring Jake Ruddick in. It's not a good look. Let's just talk about this. I tweeted out today, before we get into the film and stuff like that, I tweeted out today that, I want to see some up tempo. I want to see the empty sets. I want to see the wide splits. It's about time, Chan, that, you put your grandpa pants off, take your grandpa pants off, you put your big boy pants on, and we get this rolling right now. And I mean, the reason why I say this, and I'm sure you've seen this already, Dante. I mean, when you look at him in no huddle and empty sets right now, I mean, this, I hate to be the guy that quotes the meme on YouTube, but this is the way. All right. Like, I mean, I don't know what else to say right now. Give me heavy doses of this and sprinkle in. And you know what? Go up tempo till you get the lead, then just go empty sets and sprinkle in whatever you want to sprinkle in. Because Dante, I was led to believe, I was sold on it by Greer, right? His exact words, we brought in the man who was an RPO genius and basically modernized the RPO. Okay. Daniel Jeremiah on Moving the Scouts podcast, which I know you probably listened to. He said last year that a scout told him Tua is the best RPO. Sorry, GM told him Tua is the best RPO quarterback we've ever scouted. Why are we running RPOs like only 2 or 3 times in a game? Okay, that's going to be my first question. And I know he did make a bad call on the Shaheem leak out on an RPO set a couple weeks back that he decided to run the ball and we got stuffed. But like, are we really getting to that point where Chan Gailey, because I mean, you said to me privately, hey, in this Raiders game, and we'll get into it, but hey, maybe Chan Gailey, because he gave him the look, the Raekwon Gesicki look, Tua didn't take it, so he just went back to being conservative himself instead of continuing to push the kid. And just to further progress something, because I know you saw this, Dante, we talk about Sewell and getting everything right. I mean, Tua from a clean pocket, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only starting quarterback with 0 interceptions from a clean pocket this season right now. I mean, that should show people the importance. But, I mean, okay, so let's talk about this first part. Before we get into everything, what do you want to see from Chan Gailey this weekend against the Bills in terms of play calling, play design? Because I know you laughed before we went live. The thing I got really hot at, Dante, was I said, brother, you watch all the All-22. I know you were just like me when you watched the broadcast too. When you saw Mike Gesicki motion in line, you said, what the is this? Right? So what do you want to see from Chan Gailey in terms of how he plays to his strengths? Because I don't know if it's so much the play calling in terms of, I don't think he's calling plays that are playing to his strengths enough consistently. So where are you at this weekend with what you want to see from Chan?
Man, it's a loaded question. It's hard to answer. I think what I want to see is a commitment to what has been proven to be successful. I don't know if that's, again, like that's no huddle, that's empty sets. That is, the Dolphins actually haven't been very successful with RPOs this year. I don't know if that's a product of not running them enough. I don't know if it's just, it hasn't worked. Like, I don't know what that is, but the success rate of RPOs with whether it's Fitzpatrick or Tua at quarterback just frankly isn't very good right now. So again, like the thing that frustrates me about Chan, and I kind of came to his defense a little bit this week. But why are we not running up tempo all the time right now? Right. Like, I'm on record saying that is not a sustainable offense. You cannot do that over the course of 16 games and be successful. It's been proven time and time again. You cannot do that. There's a reason Chip Kelly's the coach at UCLA and not the coach of the Eagles anymore.
But with Dante, can you start that right now? And
that's what I was about to say. Right. Is like it can work in small doses across the season. Again, like it is not an offense, but it should be a tool in your toolbox. And Chan Gailey just I don't know, he doesn't pull it out all the time. Like if Tua struggles, just go right to it. Why? What do you have to lose? You're not moving the ball. Just do it. What do you have to lose? And I wrote about this because I attended the Bengals game. And I wrote about this and I said, the Bengals offense, and again, Joe Burrow did not play in that game, but I'm a nerd, so I watched a bunch of Bengals games before I went. You watch Joe Burrow in the Bengals offense, right? And that offense, they are ripping plays out of Joe Brady's playbook from LSU. The same routes, the same motion, the same formations, the same set. They're literally the same plays. The same plays. I go to watch Tua, okay, haven't seen a play from Alabama all year. RPOs don't count. They're the same for every team and every playbook. That doesn't count. I mean, a real play with a real route concept. It's just like we're playing with kids' gloves, and that's fine. And I get why Chan Gailey does that, but what I want to see is just let's do things that have been proven to be successful. Let's get away from the play action, first of all. And that's something I never thought I would say. Play action is a quarterback's best friend. It makes Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, and all those guys look like, freaking Deshaun Watson every week. But it's just not like we're not very good at it. Our play action yards per attempt, yards per an average, yards gained is just not that high. It's not that good. It's almost like Tua is worse when he has to turn his back to the defense and flip that back around. Let's just spread it out. Put everybody wide. Let him read the defense. Let him be a pre-snap quarterback. That's what he was at Alabama. You know what I mean? So stuff like that for me is extremely frustrating. And I've come to the defense of Chan Gailey, and I still think he's the third problem on the offense. I do. And I've been critical of him. I've come to his defense, but just do things that have been successful. That's the part that irks me is that you have been shown that these things are good. And you just we're going to not do that in the first half for some reason. Why? Why? What is the point? What does that serve? You know what I mean? And it's so funny because it happens now every week. It's been the last 4 weeks. They're terrible in the first half. They come out in the second half, run up tempo, and all of a sudden they start scoring points. And it's why? Where was that at the second quarter? Why? What is the point? So that's what I want to see from Chan Gailey. Just do the things that work. We're not asking for a lot here. I'm really not. That's the part that irks me about Chan. And I get where he's coming from because Tua right now, especially after watching the Raiders film, is just it doesn't seem like the gears are turning the way that they should be. But again, maybe the gears turn better if you spread it out and run up tempo and do those things. So that's what I want to see. Hopefully they do it because obviously a must-win game. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think it's a multitude of factors. I think it's look at this. Okay. I'll get into that. Hold on. I got a good point that I want to hear your thoughts on. But for example, when you talk about, you got receivers that really aren't separating. And when he does throw to them, let's be honest, multiple guys not named Lynn Bowden are dropping footballs, including Preston when he was healthy, right? This is an epidemic going through, and I hate to be saying that in the COVID era right now, but it's a pass catching epidemic. It's not one guy, it's not two guys, it's 3 or 4 guys that have problems catching the football consistently. All right. Let's be honest, the tight end core has been our most consistent. They catch most targets thrown their way if it's catchable, and Tua right now, he's got the second highest aggression rate in the NFL. Okay. Chan Gailey, you know what it tells me when he's got number 2 and Fitzpatrick has number 3, that you're not manufacturing space when these guys aren't creating it themselves. And I see these, look at an example. I saw one play on the L22 against the Raiders. I think he had Grant and Bowden stacked to the right. And I think it was Grant runs like a hitch and Bowden runs it like a little flat route, but just the play design has everyone's clustered around both routes. You got no route. Why isn't Grant taking his man with a go? Or that was the play, and I know you remember, where over the middle of the field there was nothing. You could have parked buses over the field. How was that not designed? That's not a slant or a skinny post, because just the play design left the middle of the field open, but he didn't utilize. It was, you know what it looked like, Dante? I think we called it on our 6 or 7 or 8. It looked like something you would call on their 6, 7, or 8, not our own. And obviously he took Bowden in the flat because there was nothing else to take. And I was just what are you doing here, man? And then, 2nd and 1. Remember that drive he gets 2nd and 1? He runs the ball twice in a row. We can't get a first down instead of, bootlegging it on 2nd down. He doesn't even use play action properly. And here's another thing I want to throw. It's not all to Chan's detriment, because he'll call play action. Tua will turn around. There's 2 guys in his face. right? Like
Well, it's
there's a
because
multitude of things going on.
we only have one play action play. That's the
Yeah.
problem. It's the
Yeah.
same play. It's the levels concept with the tight
Yeah.
end who comes from the other side of the field. It's the same play. They just run a dude into the flat and throw him the ball. And it's a left boot. So if I'm the other team, I mean, I practiced that twice. It just, hey, stand here, don't give up the edge.
Yeah.
And attack Tua when he turns around. We only have one play action play. That's
for a guy who's been around for 20 something years, bro. I think you could be more innovative if I made you the offensive coordinator tomorrow of the Miami. I'm just saying, bro. I'm not even trying to joke. That's the scary thing, bro. I'm actually not even joking. Like, bro, when I heard he threw away his notes on all the other coordinators in the NFL and everything like that, and that he's been relying on people around him to keep him up to speed. Well, he threw away his notes. Apparently, when retired, I was like, oh boy. Like, you didn't ask him the questions. Like, hey, man, let's just see what he got on everyone right now. Because you know what? Yeah, you know what I'll say, Dante? It looked like Chan was just as confused against Marinelli at times as Tua was. Like, he didn't know what to do. He's like, okay, Tua missed the read off Gesicki and McMillan early on. What do I do now? Oh, well, I just go conservative. Like, who plays like that when there's that much on the – I don't get it, man. But, I mean –
I wrote this in my conclusion to my weekly breakdown was you have paired a conservative play caller with a conservative quarterback behind an offensive line that cannot pass block with receivers that can't separate. But he's got to go. But he's got to go. Tua's the problem, brother. Right, like that. That's the Dolphins' offense right now in a bubble. And I didn't even touch on the running game. That's just the passing game, right? Like
touch on the running game. Add the running game. Go ahead.
No, look, the running backs have bad vision, and the guys can't move people on the run. So, like again, like you get to a point where again, and this is why I absolve some blame of Chan Gailey is like, the hell do you want him to do? You know, like. And again, like this is how I ended my article. I said those things, and then I said the truth is that this is just not a good offense. Like that we can go back and forth, and I love having these debates, and we can talk about Gailey and Tua and the offensive line and receivers. The truth of the matter is it is not one person. There is not a single scapegoat for why this offense sucks. The offense sucks because it sucks. There are a lot of problems that need addressing. And again, like that, like the Dolphins, like again, Gailey could be better. Tua could be better. The receivers need to be better. The offensive line needs to be better. But like there's not a lot to work with. The margin of error in the Dolphins offense is zero. Yeah. It's zero. If this team falls behind the chains, it's a punt.
Yeah, and
how many times have they converted on 3rd and long this year?
And when I call him the god of my mod squad, Rhino Sith, he's right too, because he says, so my main gripes are with, as you heard, is what I laid out. It seems like I've got more gripes situationally, right? Situational play calling, right? Because when Chan finds the rhythm and gets in the groove, we can move the ball. So sometimes I just find his commitment to the run game weird. Like he's like 1 foot out, 1 foot in. You know what I mean? When Howard was there, Gaston's blowing up the first half, then the third quarter opens up and Jordan Howard's being handed the ball. I'm like, what the hell is going on here right now? But to Rhinos' credit, he's right. You know what? And you kind of alluded to it. Sometimes, especially with the offensive line, the execution just isn't there. Also with the separation, guys aren't executing. That's, it's not only, situational play calling at times, but you also got guys more often than not executing to the fullest potential. Like, look at, I got into a discussion and I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm not a fan of Eric Flowers. Haven't been a fan since we signed him. I thought we overpaid him. Okay. Dante, as someone who watches the All-22, did you or did you not notice a vast, I don't want to say vast, but a noticeable uptick in, in the run sets for the offensive line when Kinley slid into the left and, Eric Flowers was somewhere in a cast picking flowers?
Yeah, I mean, like you look at that New England game, right, where Flowers would hurt. That was another game that I attended, and that, like, I mean, the Dolphins just ran the ball really well on that one. I think Flowers is such a tough player to pin down because he's so like roller coaster ride of playing. Like he'll pancake some dude one play, and then the next one, I mean, he'll just like whiff and fall on the ground and the guy's in the backfield in like 3 seconds. No, seriously, like he's just such a like up and down and like crazy inconsistent player. And it's very weird. And then all of a sudden, you kind of average it all out and you're like, he's average. So like he's a weird player, but yeah, I think Kinley's probably the best run blocker. Maybe him or Robert Hunt, I think are probably the best run blockers on the team. So, again, it'd be nice to have a nice guard duo of those guys in the middle, but I digress. So so Flowers is weird. And again, that's why I kind of like to lean away from blaming Chan Gailey all the time. It's too easy to blame Chan Gailey. Like it's too easy for me to sit back and go, well, if you would have run a slant route here, it would have been a completion. All right.
Hindsight
sure.
2020, right?
Right. Exactly. Like I think it's much, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm not accusing anyone of doing this. I'm just saying it's much more evident to me when I watch the film that the Dolphins have an execution problem as well as a play calling problem. And too often fans just gravitate to blaming the coaches. The coaches are terrible. And it's like, buddy, look, you can run all the deep routes if you want. Mac Hollins runs like a 4.7. He ain't separated from nobody. So like, you know what I mean? Like there are like problems inherent. Like, sure, you can call deep passes, but I mean, if Austin Jackson can't block Bradley Chubb for 3 seconds, Tua's going to get sacked before the guy even turns around. You know what I mean? So like, that's where Chan Gailey's at. Like, I would hate to be him. Like, sure, yeah, he can be way, way, way better. But like, man, I would hate to be him because, like, he can draw up a post if he wants, but the kid might get killed back there before it's 10 yards down the field. You know what I mean? So, like, it's tough, man. The Dolphins' offense needs a lot of work. This team is not sustainable right now. That needs to be the focus of the offseason. It's make this offense sustainable. Make this a product that can go to Buffalo in the winter and put up 24 and chill in South Florida when a West Coast team comes down and put up 46. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of – we need to make this
we need to find that balance. So like you said, we find that balance where in that warm weather, if we got to open it up, we open it up. But when we go to that cold weather, we can lean on the run game and win with the run game and make every throw count when we do throw the football. And, Dante, I've told people, I know, and we go back earlier to what we said, you kind of alluded to a lot of people, that's why I don't like player comps, Dante, because if I give someone a player comp, if like, for example, Tua, I mean, we could pretty much agree from the tape. You would see, Russell Wilson-esque things or Drew Brees-esque things. You say that and automatically they don't expect Russell Wilson or Drew Brees in their rookie year. They expect Russell Wilson in his prime, like best player in the world, Russell Wilson. And that's what I wanted to say to you earlier. Have you noticed on the film, because I think I got on a tangent, have you noticed on the film, I know you were like me, you were in love with his footwork coming out to how well and how smooth he could climb the pocket, right? And I think it was a matter of trust. I think a lot of things you're seeing right now is I don't think he trusts the interior. I think when guys get arced out too wide and it starts collapsing, he says, screw it. And Dante, I have never seen Tua bail at the rate he bails now. It's becoming, I say, it's becoming a bad habit because of this offensive line. He was not that player. And it wasn't about, he had a wall. It was more he trusted and knew where the protection was going to hold up. Now he doesn't know who's going to leak. He doesn't know who's going to have the bad rep right now. Because Jackson will go out and have 2 bad reps in a row. Then Karras will have a bad rep. Then Hunt will have a bad rep, Then Jesse Davis will try and pull and it looks like a disaster. You know what I mean? So he doesn't know. Like, it just – I don't think – it's not about – I just don't think he trusts the protection, brother. Just like he doesn't trust the separation. And I think this is just so many things that have to be taken into context right now.
Again, like, do you blame him?
No.
That's my thing is like, again, Robert Hunt has like a really bad habit of oversetting into like Tua's lap. Like he'll come out of
all the time.
He'll come out of his kick slide and he's like on top of the quarterback before the edge rusher even makes contact. So then the second he pushes him, Robert Hunt is into his lap. So like I don't blame him. And I think, there are games where like Tua just does not look comfortable at all. And that's a really weird thing for me because when you go back and watch his Alabama film, I mean, just one of the most comfortable, shifty players that you've seen. And he was never a great athlete. Never a great athlete. He was always a slider. You know what I mean? He just kind of slides and dukes and dodges in the pocket and drops it over the top, So that we just haven't seen that this year. And I don't know if that's him, the offensive line, the receivers, the play calling. It's probably a combination of all five. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at now. Is like, there is not a single problem. There are a lot of problems, and you kind of just have to go around with a fire extinguisher and extinguish them as best you can, which is what they're going to have to do this offseason. But they've got to put it together here for one last game, and that's what's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And just before we get into everything again, I know you probably saw this today, but you're talking about, what Tua was doing, and he's doing it as a rookie. I mean, did you see this today, Dante, when, you put Tua up against Ben as a rookie, Russ as a rookie, Breeze in his first year as a starter, Allen as a rookie, Brady in his first year. I mean, and this is obviously extrapolated over, I believe it's over 16 games for Tua. And I mean, you look at this and Tua matches up. I mean, obviously we know how safe he is with the football, but I mean, this is, basically 3,000 yards. I mean, are people just, do you think the expectations, and, I take blame for it because of how high I had him on my draft board. I have him as my QB1, you got the media out here constantly hyping him with, hey, if he didn't get hurt, he would be the first quarterback off the board, not Joe Burrow. And they all saw what Joe Burrow did at LSU last year. Do you think it's just a matter of over expectations? Because I mean, I already showed about how he's in the top 7 of catchable ball percentage to all my viewers, only like Breeze and Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and Ben Roethlisberger. Like there's only 6 players in front of him right now, and 5 of them have a Super Bowl, and the other one is Deshaun Watson. But I mean, when you look at this kid and what he's been able to do, it's just, look at his interception rate right now in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP season. Now I know the context of this is a lot of those are safe throws, but I mean, he's showing that, he cares about the football. Dante, is this something people should be holding against him? Because, he's playing tentative because it seems like, and for better or for worse, he doesn't want to put his team in a bad spot.
I think that, the biggest thing that Tua needs to improve on is he needs to find the balance between the way that he plays football and the way that Ryan Fitzpatrick plays football. Because right now they're at 2 ends of the spectrum. Fitzpatrick's too aggressive. Tua is not aggressive enough. There is a nice middle ground where he should be able to live and be very, very prosperous. Right. And that's kind of what he needs to figure out. And when we go over the film clips, there's one that I have in there. It's a difficult throw. It's not an easy throw. And I'm not lamenting him for making a quote bad read, but it's the type of read that the NFL now requires. And it's a ball that Ryan Fitzpatrick probably lets rip. And again, like there is a balance that he needs to strike between being safe with the football, but also taking calculated chances. If you need a good example of that, go watch the Chiefs game. You know what I mean? Because this was a problem for me early. This was the first thing when I watched the Rams film. I went, this kid I don't know if he can push the ball down the field. Right. So like, again, that's a problem for me. I thought he got over the hump in the Chiefs game, right? Like I thought circumstances where you're down against the Super Bowl champs and you need to bring the team back with a ragtag group of guys. And he elevated his level of play. He elevated the team. I thought he got over the hump there. Right. And then he just kind of fell back down the hump as we went. And again, we can blame the offensive line. We can blame Chan Gailey, but some of that also comes to Tua. The one thing that I would say to Dolphins fans is patience is a virtue, right? This is a rookie quarterback in a situation that isn't ideal for a rookie quarterback. And I'm going to be honest, as much as I like Coach Flores and he's very intent on winning, the Dolphins' number one priority right now is winning football games. It's not developing Tua. And we can argue the merits of whether that's correct or not. I would argue it is not, but the Dolphins are clearly more interested in winning football games than developing Tua. because they're not going to give him a shot to shoot his way out of his slumps. They're just going to put Ryan Fitzpatrick in the game, and I know they can't do that this week against Buffalo, but again, that is not their number one priority. Their number one priority is winning games. So that comes at the expense sometimes of your rookie quarterback. So have patience. Tua needs to find the balance. He needs to find an area where he is not too simple, where he's willing to test throws down the field, but he's also doesn't become Ryan Fitzpatrick, who throws, egregiously bad interceptions half the time, right? So there is a middle ground there. Tua needs to find it. I don't know if that's going to come with experience, more reps, better receivers, better offensive line. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not qualified enough to come up with that for you, but that is the problem. I know that's the problem, and that's where he needs to figure that out. For some rookie quarterbacks, it's time. For Josh Allen, it was time. He needed time to learn NFL speed, right? And he also got a great offensive line. It was everything, right, for Josh Allen when you talk it out. So the Dolphins need to do something similar that Buffalo did for Josh Allen with Tua. The great thing about that is that the Dolphins are good. They're 10-5. They could win football games, right? So we're ahead of schedule. Tua needs to mature. He needs to get better, but he's going to be fine. You have to exercise patience. He's a rookie quarterback. Just give it a second. He's played like 8 games. Relax. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's hop in to the clips. We'll bring them up right now. Obviously, I put them in chronological order to the timestamps. So, it starts off with the first play of the game. I believe that our first offensive play of the game.
Yep.
So, all right. Let her rip, brother. Let me know when you want me to pause, roll back. The floor is yours right now.
All right. Well, we can start it. And I think what you really want to watch here is the 2 Raiders safeties and the middle linebacker 54 right there. So if you pause it here, right, they come out with 2 high. You have that middle linebacker in the middle. One of the things the Raiders really, really like to do is run Tampa 2, right, where the middle linebacker is going to drop and run straight back into coverage, and it almost becomes a cover 3-ish look with 3 guys back there. So you're going to send the man in motion here. Nobody comes with him. Pause it. That tells you you're in zone coverage, right? Nobody comes with Grant in man. So they're not in man, they're in zone. So that should tell you that maybe that linebacker is going to drop back, right, in that Tampa 2, because this is something that Oakland likes to do. This is a John Gruden staple. You know why it's called the Tampa 2? Because he ran it in Tampa Bay in the early 2000s. That's why it's called, right? So those 2 safeties are going to get outside, okay? So if we hit play here, the top of that receiver, you see him coming right there. I'm pointing. See 54 right now. He's about to flip his hips, right? And he's going to carry that receiver. Chan Gailey makes an excellent play call here. He calls a beater against Tampa 2. He calls John Gruden and Rod Marinelli out right from the start. And, hey, I know you like to run this Tampa 2, so I'm going to run this really fast receiver right down the seam to break this, right? So if we hit play here, Tua drops back. Okay, pause it here. Clean pocket. A quick read, Tua, you got to let that rip to the middle of the field. You have all of this space. The other half of this route concept, right, is Matt Collins. He's at the bottom of the screen here. He's running that out route. He's going to pull that safety to the sideline. And now you've got a receiver running against Raekwon McMillan, who's not very fast, if you remember him, Dolphins fans. And you've got a wide open receiver if you hit play here again down the seam. You got to let this rip. This is a clean pocket. This is good protection. You got to let this rip. That's a huge window. This is an NFL throw right here. This is a throw you have to make at an NFL level. Tua does not let it rip. I don't know if he's not trusting his eyes, not trusting what he sees, but this is a throw you have to make. He's got a clean pocket here. There is no pressure, none. And instead, we scramble out to where he has absolutely no help and flip the ball to Durham Smythe.
I hate these shovel things that he's been doing too. Eh? I hate them, man.
They are stress-inducing. I will say that every time he does it, I have like a small heart attack that he's just going to pitch it to the wrong team.
Yeah, I know. Eh?
But this is the first play of the game, and I think that this is important because if you're Chan Gailey, right, you're sitting here and you're going, okay, my quarterback just missed a really easy read on the first play of the game. This is probably scripted, right? Mm-hmm. This is the first play of the game. So this is scripted. This means they probably talked about it, right, in the huddle. Mm-hmm. And Tua doesn't let it rip for some reason. Again, right, he gets the look. They use pre-snap motion, which, holy crap. And then, look, I mean, this is Lynn Bowden too. He's fast. You got to let that rip right now. This is anticipation.
His eyes aren't even there right yet, eh?
Yeah. Like
his eyes aren't even there yet. They look like they're over here towards the sideline.
Yeah.
That Matt Collins route. There goes that. Now they're there.
Yeah.
Now they're
You got to
there.
let that rip. Let it rip right now. You got to throw it right into that hole shot. And again, like Matt Collins is first in that progression because you're reading that safety over the top. Yeah. If the safety doesn't come down on Matt Collins' route, Matt Collins is wide open. You let that thing rip.
Yeah.
Right. But if the second Tua looks up, he should look there. If that safety is looking at Matt Collins, that ball's got to go over the top to the middle. That's how it goes. Right. So again, like that's why I think, again, I try to absolve some blame from Chan Gailey, because if you're a play caller, you call that play, you call the perfect play on the first play of the game, should be an explosive. Maybe it's a touchdown if he leads him. Honestly, like the only guy who's going to catch him is that safety, and his hips are flipped the wrong way. So if you're Chan Gailey, you might go, you know what? Maybe the kid can't handle it. I'm going to go back to the simple crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. All right. But what's crazy is oh man. I just keep going back to the Gesicki throw. That's why.
Well, it's on here. That's one of the clip ones. We can talk about it. I think.
I know, but I'm just saying that's that's a big boy read and throw, man. Like I don't know, man.
I know.
All right, so here's your next one, buddy. The pistol formation.
Yeah, so this one's weird. I don't really understand what the Raiders are doing here. I know that this is zone coverage. This kind of looks like a hybrid cover 3 look. The point here that I think is important is not really about what the Raiders are running. If you hit play here, just watch Tua. Again,
is this where he makes the identification and they rotate the middle?
Yeah. Again, he does something good here, right? But when the ball gets snapped, he doesn't go through progressions, right? Like he flexes this out, he draws this linebacker out, right? And they switch. So he's got a favorable matchup right there, right? So that's where he should be looking. You've got a linebacker on a receiver. If you hit play here, right? Keep it going. Go. He just comes off of it in 2 seconds. He doesn't even let that route progress. He doesn't even he looked up and he thought they were in man and they were in zone and he went, nope, I'm going right to the other side of the field and I'm throwing a check down. And again, that stuff, this is stuff that comes with time. I get it. But if you're a play caller, again, you've schemed open a receiver, you called them on their bluff, they are in zone, they're not in man. You got a favorable matchup with a wide receiver breaking to a wide open zone. And Tua looked at that side of the field for, I don't know, a second and a half until he went to the other side. You know what I mean? Like that. And even when he goes to the other side, he doesn't even read the deep routes. Now, he makes the right throw. The right throw is to the flat if you're going to go to the other side. But he didn't read that. He just turned and pivoted and threw it out there. Yeah. He didn't read that. Come on. There's no way. He didn't let this play develop. That's concerning to me. You need to let this develop. Matt Collins comes right open, right? That linebacker pinches down. He's wide open. That's a first down. Yeah. Easy. Tua didn't even look that way for another 2 yards. And he had him, man. That's an easy throw that Tua definitely makes. And instead, we get this dump off to Adam Shaheen. And
when I did the breakdown, you really notice it I call it the God angle from the goalpost view.
Yeah.
That's where you notice the head twitch, right? This is where you notice how far. You're right, man. I highlighted this when we broke this down. He look at this. If you watch his head right here, watch. Look at. He didn't even, you know what I mean? He didn't even give over the middle really a chance.
There's no way that the flat route to Adam Shaheen was the first in that progression, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm in the offensive room and I know every first progression that Tua makes, but there is a absolutely 0% chance that a flat route on the other side of the hashes is the first read on this play. That's just not how football works. This is just, but again, is this a bad read? No. It's not a bad read. He threw to an open receiver and got a completion. It's not the best read. And that's what I'm saying. And Tua needs to find the balance. This is another good example here. This is a super simple concept. This is a smash concept. You're going to get a little curl route from the outside receiver and a corner route from Mike Gesicki. The Raiders are going to motion that single high safety over, right? But this is, again, another beater. This is a tough throw if we let it run here, right? Watch the outside corner, guys. Ready? Pause it. See right there? See how he broke in? Tua's looking that way as well. This is what the smash concept is designed to do. You're designed to put that outside cornerback in a bind where he either has to come up and defend the curl route, or he's going to sink back into his zone and defend the corner, right? So when Tua sees this, he should see that the momentum of that cornerback is coming forward here, right? You got to throw that corner route. You have to. That's the read on this play. And again, like, this is not – Tua makes a really good throw, by the way, underneath here to Myles Gaskin. That's really good placement away from that receiver. And yes, the cornerback recovers, and I get that. This is not an easy throw. This requires arm strength. This requires zip. This requires you to be on your – like, you need to make this read really quickly and let the ball rip. And Tua did not, and he took the safer route, and he throws a good ball. But they don't pick up the first down, and they punt here.
It needs to be out, like, right here.
Yeah, right here. You need to see that corner coming down on that outside. This read needs to be quick. And it needs, if you put that outside the numbers.
Right out here. That's all day up the
That's
sideline.
easy, right? Like, that corner's not making that play. Come on. And again, like, this comes with time. I get it. But the next clip is a Ryan Fitzpatrick clip. Ryan Fitzpatrick lets that rip. And I am not a Ryan Fitzpatrick guy. I'm really not. I have been very vocal in that I do not think he's very good. But I'm telling you, he lets that rip.
But do you think it's because, I mean, I try to tell people, okay, Tua might be the better player or the better quarterback when you look at the tools, but you talk about being the better NFL player, that's a different ball game. And do you think it might be because, if it's the one I think you're going to show, he clearly saw something pre-snap and he knew where he was going to go bang, bang, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you'll even see it in the clip when we get to it. He literally just points right at the middle linebacker because he knows he's got him. Again, like, and what's so frustrating about this play is that that's a really good throw in a bubble by Tua, right? That's on the outside shoulder, leading his man, but it's short of the first down marker and they have to punt. And that's a problem. You can't, like, you need to throw that corner out here. All right, so here's the Fitzpatrick play. The Dolphins are going to get the same look here. This is going to be Tampa 2 again. You're going to get Mike Gesicki running straight by Raekwon McMillan. Gesicki's in the slot at the top of your screen. He's right there, right? So they're going to be in that Tampa 2 formation again. What's crazy here is, look at Fitzpatrick, right? He's literally pointing right at
Raekwon, yeah.
He got right to the line, and he said, boom, that's where I'm going with the football. And that's what makes Ryan Fitzpatrick so good. And what's crazy about this, too, is that Fitzpatrick – try and pause this right where he decides he's going to throw it, because this is why Ryan Fitzpatrick's a maniac.
Right there. He
knows he's throwing the ball. Those safeties are nowhere near as occupied with outside routes as they were for Tua.
Yeah,
right?
they're just sitting on top of it, right?
They're just sitting on top of it. Mac Hollins pulled one of those safeties away. Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't give a crap. He's throwing the ball into that whole shot. He doesn't. He don't care. That's a small window, tight throw that can only be made with good anticipation, and he does it. It's an absolute dart. It's a beautiful throw, and it's something that Tua Tagovailoa right now is just not doing. These are the few examples that I pull, but there are a lot more. He missed a couple of them over the middle. Like, he was not on top of his game against the Raiders. He just wasn't. I'm not saying this is a systemic issue, but it was an issue against the Raiders. Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, I mean, that's a great throw, man.
Ball too. That's
a nice ball.
Yeah.
So that's the same look that Tua got with the first play. He did not complete it. If you're Chan Gailey, that's why you have more confidence in someone like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying it's the correct approach, but there's a human element to football. He's comfortable with Ryan Fitzpatrick because Ryan Fitzpatrick lets it rip.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick's been around, and out of every NFL quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick knows Chan Gailey's offense like the back of his hand better than anyone else. I mean,
that's right.
There's just so many things of, like, you know what I mean? It's just a comfort level. But here's the thing. You said you got 3 problems with this offense. Number 3 was Chan Gailey. Okay. Yep. So can you give me your top 3 problems with the offense right now? And I want you to include Chan Gailey and say why Chan Gailey.
So for me, number 1 is receivers who cannot run routes and or separate. Take your pick. It doesn't matter. That is a huge problem, and that's also the easiest one to fix. So that for me is the number 1 problem. Number 2 is linemen who cannot block. that is also a big problem because if you're a play caller, you are limited by the pieces you are given. You can be as creative as you want. If the offensive line can't block for as long as you need them to, it doesn't matter what play you draw up. And that's why Chan Gailey's number 3 for me. Again, he has problems, but we've seen him be successful. He's done some good things, but he is severely, severely limited by the things that he has around him, and so is Tua. And that's why Tua is last for me. He's a rookie who has a conservative offensive coordinator in a modern, aggressive NFL with guys who can't block and receivers who can't separate. That's why he's last for me. And again, I can go through and point out problems. I did not think he played well against the Raiders. I thought he was a problem on the field for the Dolphins in that game. But again, he's a rookie. I expect him to make mistakes. The things around him right now as a rookie are failures. If this was year 3, we'd have a problem, right? Like this would be an issue. But it's a rookie quarterback. So again, I'm going to lean on the things around him, and I'm going to hold the things around him more accountable right now while also holding him accountable. There's a balance there. So again, I think that the things around him are failing him, so I'm not even going to come close to writing off Tua based on what I've seen so far, and I think it would be foolish to do so by anyone's accord.
Has he shown you flashes of that franchise quarterback you think he can be? Like the KC game and then the Arizona game?
I think the KC and the Arizona game are the examples that you want to go to point to, when people say Tua's a bust, tell them to go watch those games. Those are the games I would watch, and again, the only hesitation that I have is my biggest knock on Tua pre-draft was arm talent, in that this is the simple truth. You can get mad at me for this if you want. He cannot make all of the throws. There are throws that are unavailable to Tua because he does not have the arm strength to fit every window on the field. He is better than Justin Herbert at a lot of things. He is not better at that. Justin Herbert's got a certified cannon attached to his arm, right? So Tua has to win in other ways, and he's very effective at that. And again, there are things that he cannot do, and it worries me now because I'm seeing the manifestation of those things on film. And that part does give me a little pause. I just went on a gigantic rant on why we should not give up on him, and I firmly believe that. I think he can be a franchise quarterback. I'm confident in that evaluation. I'm confident in my own evaluation. But if these are things that we see continuously, Tua is not a franchise quarterback.
Well, I always say give your quarterback 3 years. You give the pick 3 years.
Right. You have to give it time, of course.
What do you say to the people that are out there saying draft a quarterback this year?
Here's the thing. The front office is going to do their evaluations. They're going to evaluate the quarterbacks. That is their job. They have to do that. So
every position, they'll evaluate every position.
They have to evaluate every position. That's called being a good general manager. You are doing a disservice to your franchise if you're not coming to the table every year and saying, can we improve in this area, especially a quarterback? With that said, and this is somebody who, again, I was on Zach Wilson in July. This is not me bragging. This is not me saying I was first. I was not first. I was early. But I'm telling you, as Zach Wilson's biggest fan, I do not think he's going to fetch a higher grade for me pre-draft than Tua did out of Alabama as an objective analyst, right? So, again, they're going to come to the table. They're going to watch.
What about Justin Fields' grade? What about Justin Fields' grade?
Getting to it, right? So you're going to watch Zach Wilson. You're going to watch Justin Fields, right? A very, very good quarterback prospects. Really like those two players. The Dolphins are going to come to the table. They're going to evaluate that, and they're going to have a decision. They're either going to say, yes, these players are better pre-draft than Tua, or no. I think the answer will be no. I think that they will come to the conclusion that their pre-draft grade on Tua and what they've seen so far this season still makes him a franchise guy. Now, this is the caveat. If they come to the table and they watch Justin Fields' film and he's on the pick at 3 and they say to themselves with the stamp of approval that he is better than Tua Tagovailoa, they should draft him at number 3. I firmly believe that. Now, there is a 99.999999% chance that does not happen. However, if it does, I'm not going to lambast them for making that pick. I won't, because that tells me that they are insanely confident in that pick.
And in love with Justin Fields.
Right? Like that. So if they make the pick, I'm not going to hate it because that tells me they went to the table and they did their jobs. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Tua is a better prospect than those two players. I think Tua is going to be back next year. I think he's going to be the franchise quarterback of the Miami Dolphins for years to come. I really believe that. But again, you have to do your job in that situation.
Right.
If
that's what they get paid to do, right?
That's what they get paid to do. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I do not think that would be their decision. But if it is, that says a lot. It says a lot.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. We talked about this before we went live here. I mean, I believe, just like you, that Tua is a better prospect than both those guys. Okay, so, let me ask you this now. As a film watcher, as a Dolphin fan, how confident are you with this offense going into Buffalo on Sunday? And then on top of that, I'm sure you saw what McDermott said today. He kind of alluded or implied that, I'm going to do what's best for my players. And a lot of people are thinking maybe 1 or 2 series for some of the main starters. Do you think a lot of the Bills players see the full game? And how do you think this offense is going to handle? Because a lot of people are making a big deal about Tua saying, I've never thrown in the snow before.
Yeah, I don't really put a lot of stock in that. I'm going to be completely honest. It's kind of a thing where it's like, it's only a problem if it is, but I'm worried about this offense playing against any defense in the NFL because I don't think it's very good. Right. And like, that is kind of where I'm at. Again, health is a factor. Is Devontae Parker back? Is, how healthy is the receivers? How healthy is the offensive line? Those things are important. I would not be surprised if the Bills players only play the first half. They do have something to play for, but the Steelers kind of already punted on that. They're starting Mason Rudolph against the Browns. So that was kind of a big thing for the Dolphins in that, if the Steelers decided they wanted to play, maybe the Bills would have decided they wanted to play. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think Buffalo's in a situation where they kind of have to decide if they want to play the Dolphins a third time or if they want to play a different team, because I think unequivocally we can decide that, look, Buffalo's a better team than Miami. Sorry, guys. It's the truth. You can be sad about it. I'm not saying we can't beat them. We could definitely beat them.
Well, me and you were trying to tell everyone. Remember when we did that round table? Me and you were the only ones who were like, yeah, I don't know what. And everyone was like, oh, these guys must be Bills fans. You remember that?
I do remember that.
I'm just sitting here saying, I mean, we were kind of right. They're legit, brother.
Yeah. So again, like the Bills are in control here, right? If they want to play the full game because the Dolphins are their rival and they're not particularly interested in seeing them in the playoffs, they could do that. And they could knock us right out if they're on top of their game. They're better than us. So that's going to be interesting. And we'll see what they want to do. If I'm Sean McDermott, I would sit everybody. That would be me. I tried to err on the side of caution, especially like, Josh Allen, like why? What benefit do I have to playing Josh Allen in this game? We'll see what they do. Again, they might just want to knock us out of the playoffs. There's a very real possibility that they're like, you know what, this team's dangerous. We're not particularly interested in playing them a third time. We're just going to knock them out. Mm-hmm. And they could do that. I'm not saying we can't beat them at full strength. That's not what I'm saying. But again, if they are on top of their game, they will beat us. Like that's just how the NFL works. We'll see. It's interesting. I'm very concerned about the offense, just generally speaking. Like I think that our offense isn't good. And again, like I'm also worried about, the snow being there and like, do they run up tempo in the snow? Like do things like that? Like, I don't know if Chan Gailey, like
throw a wrench, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I could see Chan Gailey coming out and going, oh, it's snow. I'm going to establish the run. You know what I mean? Like I could really see him doing that.
Flats and running backs, baby. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. So that stuff scares me a lot, but we'll see, man. It's really interesting. I hope they don't play their starters. I hope they just let us walk over them, but we'll see. They might have too much pride for that.
You know what I want to, and you might support me on this. I don't know how far you are yet. A lot of these people are like, oh, take Justin Fields or, Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or God forbid they say Mac Jones or Kyle Trask. But I'm more excited about next year's quarterback draft class with like Sam Howell, Slovis, potentially Jaden Daniels. If I'm
Rattler.
moving off to Rattler, if I'm on, he played. Hey, he looked good on the weekend, and that he looked good. That last game. Okay, buddy. If I'm gonna move off, I'm taking one of those guys because if I get Lance, I want one of those. I love Justin Fields, but I like those four. If they all come out next year, that is a stacked class, man. And I'll roll my dice next year if I'm going to go for a quarterback. I don't think this year's the year personally, but
I really like this quarterback class this year. I think it's really strong. I think all four guys at the top, Lance, Wilson, Fields, Lawrence, are franchise caliber passers. I feel very good about that. But yeah, I mean, the thing is they're going to evaluate the quarterback position every year. They should, because if you don't, you end up like the Chicago Bears are, right? They stopped evaluating the quarterback position when they drafted Mitchell Trubisky, and now they're in a situation where they're in quarterback purgatory and his contract is up and they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. That's where you end up, right? If you don't evaluate the quarterback position every year. So they should do that. They should evaluate they should evaluate this class. They should evaluate the 2022 class. You don't stop evaluating the quarterback position. Good franchise don't do that. Even if you have Aaron Rodgers, the Packers still drafted Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And we can argue that that was a bad pick in a bubble, but it might be really freaking good in a couple of years if he turns out to be half of Aaron Rodgers because he sat there for a couple of years, right? So you should be evaluating that position every season. And that's just kind of how I feel about it, regardless of the quality of quarterback class. That's just how
I was huge on Trey Lance coming into this season. You remember that? And, I thought the Chicago Bears were like a beautiful fit for him.
Yeah.
Did he hurt his stock a little bit with how he played when he did play this year? Do you think? Like he seemed like a pretty sure bet, top 5 if it continued the way it went last year.
Here's the thing. I think that if you are somebody who's not a prisoner of the moment, then no, he should not have hurt his stock. Nothing that Trey Lance struggled with in that game is not something that I didn't see over the summer.
Okay.
Like he's not perfect. He's raw, like he has not played a lot of football. You are taking, a player who's played in like 20 games, maybe, you know what I mean? Like that's, again, like there are risks in that. And there are going to be games where he has to rely on his legs to win football games. And I feel the same way about Justin Fields too. Everybody's killing Justin Fields for the Northwestern performance. And it wasn't great. He made mistakes, but processing concerns have been on Justin Fields' film since Georgia. Like that is not a new piece of information to me. I've already factored that into my evaluation of Justin Fields. I've already factored in bad footwork into Trey Lance's evaluation, and I still feel confident in those players. And I think people on Twitter get way too caught up in the moment. They really do. And you have to look at the part of scouting that I love, and why I love scouting so much is because it forces you to look at everything in a large, big picture context situation, right? You can evaluate, if you just evaluate Justin Fields off the Northwestern game, he's probably a 6th round pick, right? Like, what are you doing? So you have to evaluate that in the big picture. So I don't think Lance hurt himself. I think what's going to be interesting is the fact that he just hasn't played an entire year, really, like that one game against, Arkansas State, like whatever, like he hasn't played in a long time. So he's going to be out of the mind of a lot of people. And that's going to be interesting. And I think that's why he's become quarterback 4 so like consensusly. And I think that's a fair ranking. I think you can kind of swap around the guys below Lawrence, and I think you're comfortable there. But again, like he's kind of just fallen out of the collective groupthink right now. And I think a lot of people just kind of wrote him off. And I think that was foolish because he's a very, very talented quarterback prospect.
Yeah. All right, brother. We're almost about to hit the 1.5 hour mark. I don't want to take any more of your time as we're only a couple hours away from the new year. You got any final thoughts? You want to get out there? The floor is yours, right, my friend, right now.
I'm hopeful for a win, rooting for a win. I want to see this team make the playoffs. I think that they've fought hard. They've earned it. But my big thing going into this offseason, and I'll probably write about this when the season is over, whether that's Sunday or a couple weeks from now, the way that the Dolphins are winning football games right now, this is my cautionary tale. They're doing a lot of great things. They have killed this rebuild, right? This is one of the best rebuilds in the NFL. They've done a great job. They have a lot of great things in place. They've got resources to fix all of their problems. The way they're winning football games right now, historically speaking, is not sustainable. And that would be the only roadblock for me. So when you're Dolphins fans, when we get into draft season, keep that in the back of your head. We need to make this offense high-powered enough to where it can travel anywhere and produce. That's what the good teams in the NFL all have across the board. Right? We see good defenses come and go all the time. The Jaguars were the king of the world in 2017. They didn't have a good offense. Guess where they're at now? Picking first overall.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's how it goes, man. And I'm not saying the Dolphins defense is going to suddenly be bad or anything like that. I'm just saying they'll probably be closer. Instead of number 1 scoring defense, they'll be like 10 or 12, which is still really good. And the Dolphins are going to have a good defense. They've got good defensive coaches, good defensive personnel. But this team needs to become more sustainable. And they currently aren't right now, but they're doing a great job overall. I'm very, very happy with where we're at. Excited for this Bills game, man. I really am. It's rare that I'm excited for a Week 17 Dolphins game. Can't remember the last time, I'm going to be honest. So,
and it's rare that there's been this much on the line in Week 17.
Right, man? Isn't this fun? This is awesome. I'm excited.
It's beautiful, brother. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all for rolling through. Tomorrow, I'm going to be back, guys, but I'm going to be earlier than normal. I'm not going to be doing the normal 9 o'clock. It's looking like I'm going to be back around 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'm going to be joined by someone who Dante is actually familiar with. I'm going to be joined by Kevin Dern, and we're going to preview the Bills game. I'm sure he's going to have stuff to talk about too as well, because that's the topic right now.
I love Kevin. He's great.
Yeah, man. So it should be a good show tomorrow, guys. Again, I'll be back around 1 o'clock. Just look out on Twitter. I'll make the announcement obviously before, but it should be around 1 o'clock that I go live tomorrow. We'll go live for a bit and we'll preview the game. So until then, guys, you can check Dante Collinelli. Go check his new latest 2-round mock out on Blue Chip Scouting. He's got a big announcement coming up in the next few weeks as well. And you can find some more of his content over on Dolphins Talk. But until next time, guys, and until tomorrow, and guys, on Spotify, iTunes, go look at the finish line. The new episode should be coming out tonight. Until tomorrow, guys, fins up all day, every day. And, let's get this